that the title of the poem is not afternoon. The title of the poem is afternoons. It's plural, which means what? It means that day in and day out, every day, today, tomorrow, again tomorrow, right? The famous soliloquy of Macbeth. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps into this petty pace from day to the last syllable of the recorded time. I will be engaging in an activity which does not make sense, but I expect to be taken home by my mother. Hence, the expectation comes from a very defined role that the society has thrust upon the mother. We are back with another of Larkin's poem. So today we are going to discuss afternoons. And like we promised that we are going to discuss all the Larkin's poem. And the third poem that is in part of the discussion is afternoons. Let's begin. So first we'll read the poem and then we deep dive into the poem. Afternoons. Summer is fading. The leaves fall in ones and twos from trees bordering the new recreation ground. In the hollows of afternoons, young mothers assemble at swing and sandpit, setting free their children. Behind them, at intervals, stand husbands in skilled trades, an estate full of washing and albums lettered our wedding lying near the television. Before them, the wind is ruining their coating places. That are still coating places, but the lovers are in school. And their children, so intent on finding more unripe acorns, expect to be taken home. Now this is the brilliance of this particular poem is in these three lines. The beauty has thickened. Something is pushing them to the side of their own lives. So this is again a very characteristically Larkin's poem. It was written in 1959 and it was later included in Larkin's collection of Whitsun Wedding. And as we discussed previously also, that Larkin is one of the most significant British poets of the post-World War, and he often focuses on the ordinariness of life. The time that is inflicting upon the post-World War Britishers. And of course, if he's talking about time, if he's talking about the age, he has to talk about human disillusionment. Now, I think we discussed previously also that he was one of the flag bearers of the movement poetry. And movement poetry, the characteristic of movement poetry is that it has a very clear language, stark realism, and most importantly, it talks about everyday themes. And this particular poem is about that everyday theme. And we'll understand the protagonist of this everyday theme is woman, mother. Now, if you dive into the poem, you will find that it is talking about day-to-day activities. But in this day-to-day activity, it is reflecting the post-Second World War British society. So what is that characteristic of the post-World War British society? That the middle class is stabilizing. There's a growth in middle class. To a degree, there is growth in affluence that did not happen in the 1920s, 30s, and even in 40s. For 3 decades, one of the primary reasons for World War II was the economic factor. Fortunately, the Germans used it to boost up Third Reich. The Britishers did not use that particular, but Britishers also had the issue of face the problem of Great Depression. And you have to understand, the genesis of Great Depression was Britain, right? So for these 3 decades, Britishers had faced the issue of livelihood, sustenance, day-to-day living. And now in the 1950s, when the World War shadow is behind them, when the society is moving towards, or there's a trajectory towards affluence, there are other problems which are creeping in. There are other problems. Now, Larkin is one of the best poets to highlight those problems. That in affluence, in rising bountiness, there are other problems also. And who is better to speak about those problems than Larkin? Now, in this poem, Larkin portrays young mother who is watching their children in a newly created recreational playground, but their family life, their personal life, everything, even their youth, is secondary. What is primary over here? The most important thing is their role as a motherhood. Now, he is not romanticizing motherhood. Again, as we discussed previously, that Larkin was a poet who consciously, he deconstructed the so-called romantic themes, and one of them is motherhood. He is not romanticizing motherhood. He is saying that a young woman is entrapped into this particular role, and because she is entrapped into this particular role, there is no growth in British woman. When the society is being affluent, when the society is doing well. And we'll see in the poem how Larkin uses those precise, exact terms, words to communicate this feeling. Right? Okay. So the first 4 lines: summer is fading, the leaves fall in ones and twos from trees bordering the new recreation ground. Now, in the first 4 lines, there is no mention of mother. There is no mention of the protagonist of the poem, which will come later. The first 4 lines creates the setup, creates that space in which this existential trauma that is faced by a mother will be played in the coming few lines. So how is it starting? Summer is fading, right? That very moment, so we have to relate summer is fading. What season comes after summer? It's autumn. And what is the title of the poem? Afternoons. It is not noon, it's not the peak, it's not the high end of the peak of your day. It is, you have moved away from the peak. You have moved away from the peak. It is the autumn of your life. It is the afternoon of the day. It is not the noon, it's the afternoon. So, in the very first, in the title of the poem itself, the Larkin is trying to communicate that, look, the heydays are over. From here, everything is downhill. And we'll see how the poem characteristically has a downward slope. Right. So afternoon is the next thing in the life of a person, where from then everything will go downhill. So the poem establishes a feeling of nostalgia, melancholia, wistfulness. Right? Now then he says the leaves fall in 1 and 2s. Now this is brilliant. Now if you properly notice this line, the leaves fall in 1 and 2s, these are all monosyllabic lines. These are all monosyllabic lines, right? And these monosyllabic lines, we have an elongated vowels. For example, leaves, fall, 1s and 2s. So these are all elongated vowels. Now what does it symbolize? It symbolizes that the dragging of time, the passage of time, the time is going away. It shows that the mother is, so here you have to understand, the mother has not come into the picture, but it's a premonition that this 1 leaf, 2 leaves are falling. It shows that the vigorousness of motherhood is gradually taking away the entity within which, or the entity which defines a particular person. That motherhood is so emasculating, right? It's gradually, it's eroding in one, like just like a leaf falls, second leaf falls, gradually it's eroding the vitality of life, the vitality of a person. And here it's the mother. Now, this is brilliance. Then, what he says, from the trees bordering the new recreation ground. Wow, this is brilliant. Bordering. As I've said, Larkin uses these words very consciously. Bordering means that these trees have surrounded this new recreation ground. It's like a prison. You cannot escape this prison. You cannot escape this prison. Right? It is directly challenging the romantic idea that trees, in romanticism, trees would be like close to nature, right? It's not that I love nature, it's not that I love man less, but I love nature more. Lord Byron has said it, right? One of the foremost romantics. It's not that I love man less, but I love nature more. Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, right? But he destroys this image of romanticism by making the instrument of romantic poetry, trees, a prison unto itself. That the person who is playing the role of a mother is surrounded by. In the hollows of afternoons, young mothers assemble at swing and sandpit, setting free their children. Now again, this is the moment when we see there's an entry of the protagonist. This is the moment when the mothers with their children comes into the scene. What is the scene? What is the space? The new recreation ground that has been created. And we'll understand what this new recreation ground is. Now, another thing that you have to notice over here is that the title of the poem is not afternoon. The title of the poem is afternoons. It's plural, which means what? It means that day in and day out, every day, today, tomorrow, again tomorrow, right? The famous soliloquy of Macbeth. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps into this petty pace from day to the last syllable of the recorded time. And all our yesterdays are lighted fools away to their dusty death. Out, brief candle, life is like a walking shadow. A poor player who struts and frets its hour upon stage and then it's heard no more. Is a story told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Tomorrow and every day, every afternoon, women who is playing the role of a mother will take their children to this recreation ground, trapped into this quagmire of routine. She can't escape it. In the hollows, and hence it's the hollows of afternoon. The emptiness of the life. So again, so Eliot uses the word vacant. If you have seen, most of his poem has this vacant lot. Right? Here, Larkin uses the word hollow, which signifies emptiness in the life of the woman who is playing the role of a mother. And particularly when? During the afternoons. And that means what? That you are moving away from the peak of your life. You're moving away from the peak of your life. That is the moment. So, you have married, you have fun, like, you have expectations, then you have children, and then you move past that peak. And hence the hollowness enters your life, impinges upon your life, vitiates your life, corrupts your life, and most importantly, it borders your life, it gheraos your life, it imprisons your life, it creates a quagmire of illusion, of nightmare. It's very dark. Right? Then, young mothers assemble. The word assemble, it's not gather, it's not meet up. Let's meet up in the playground. Let's gather together. There's no joy in this gathering. There's no happiness in this meetup. It's an assembly. Like in school, we do every day in the morning. We assembly, we are duty bound. You are disciplined. We have to do this. We have to assemble for the children because I have to play the role of what? I have to play the role of a mother. And I cannot escape it. I've been bothered by this, this cloistered understanding that being a woman, being a mother, you have to play this role. Young mothers assemble at swing and sandpit. This is where Larkin is very cheeky. At swing and sandpit. So the fact that now they have moved away from their heydays, the love between their husbands, the love between them and the husbands are no more. So they are in the sandpit of their relation, and swing is again a very sexual connotation. Swing means that they might have an extramarital affair. Right, and we'll later see. He says there are lines in the poem where he talks about these things. Right, at swings and sandpits, setting free their children. Now the children also feels that okay, like I've been set free. Now I can enjoy. They feel that, but actually it's not so because they have somebody to supervise. Who are there to supervise? It's their parents. Right, that's their job to do it. Behind them at intervals, now this is where this is where you find where Larkin is in its uncharacteristic charm, and which for reason why people hate him at times, and reasonably so. He says, behind them, behind whom? Behind the mothers. Behind them at intervals stand husbands in skilled trades, an estate full of washing, and the albums lettered our wedding lying near the television. Now this is so, this particular, you might expect a question from here. You might expect a question from here, right? And you have, UPSC have asked questions from here, right? You might expect a question from here. Each and every word is loaded. Each and every word, as I've said, I love using the word exact when it comes to Larkin. I love using the word exact when it comes to Larkin. Because what does it mean? It means that there cannot be another word which can replace that particular word. It's so perfect, it's so exact. Behind them, what do you expect of a husband when it comes to in a relationship with his wife? You should stand beside them. You should stand beside them, not behind them. Behind them, then he's doubling on the gap in the relationship between the husband and the wife. Behind them, but that too not regularly, at intervals. It's only sometimes. At intervals stand husbands in skilled trades. Right? Behind them, not beside them, at intervals, not regularly, only sometimes, at intervals, stand husbands, again, like it's an assembly of women, so assembly of husbands will be standing in skilled trade. Now this is very important, you have to know the historical perspective of this. Again, as I've said, skilled trades. 1959 the poem was written, the World War ended in 1945, good healthy 14, 15 years, the British society have evolved into an economic giant, even though it has lost most of its colonies, but still as an economic giant. For example, London became the financial giant, still it is. London is still the financial giant of the Western world. All important transactions happen via London. I think you have heard about the term LIBOR, right? It is the financial capital of the world. So in this 15 years, the men, now this is very important. This is very important. The men have skilled themselves. They have picked up new trades. They have skilled themselves. They're doing something where they are rewarded by the society, by the nation, by the state, because what they're doing, they are value adding to the national growth. Again, skilled trades, skilled. It takes time, it took time, and they did it. But what did the wife do? They're past those heydays. They're past those afternoons. They are past those noons. They are now in the afternoon. They were fixated. They were pulled down. They were not skilled. They were pulled down into the role of mother, that you have to look after the children. The children are free. They are free. They know that I can be free only for one simple reason. That is, their mother is there to look after them. The mothers assemble. But what does a husband do? Do they assemble? No. They stand behind them, but also that too in intervals. Hence, they don't have responsibility. But yes, how do I define the husband as? They are not, they have picked up trades. They're skilled in trades. They are contributing to the economy, for which the nation state is is rewarding them for their contribution, is paying them for their contribution. But is motherhood being paid over here? No. Now, back in those days, there were no labor saving devices. We did not have washing machines, right? We did not have dishwashers. So the manual labor, which is not recognized, which is not skilled, by the way, it's not skilled, that was pushed into or thrown or given to women, like housekeeping, motherhood. It was a full-time job for which no skill was required. The state did not recognize them, and hence they were not being paid. Now, behind them at intervals stand husbands in skilled trades, an estate full of washing, and the albums lettered our wedding lying near the television. Now, I will explain an estate full of washing a bit later. This is very loaded, and UPSC will ask a question for sure if they ask a question from here. But there's another important metaphor over here, and it's washing, and the albums lettered our wedding lying near the television. Oh, this is just brilliant. This is just brilliant. Behind them at intervals stand husbands in skilled trades, an estate full of washing, and the albums lettered our wedding. So we'll understand this a bit later. Let's understand this. And the albums lettered our wedding lying near the television. So albums here symbolize memory of the past. The album recognized love between the couples. It documented that what was the reason why this man and the woman have come together. It is nothing but an exact emotion of happiness. Right? But that is what it's doing. The albums lettered our wedding. Wow, so personalized. Our wedding, our. But here what do we see? The husband is standing behind. It's not always. Our wedding, lying. Lying designates what? It designates neglect. It designates loss. The romantic past is gone. Is gone. And to a degree, Larkin probably is blaming the children. Probably. Right? Because it starts with that image where the children is being accompanied by mothers, and there is a distance between the mothers and the husband. Right? Now, our wedding, the album title, Our Wedding, is lying where? It could be in a cupboard, it could have been in a book, wherever. But it's like, why would Larkin use the word the television? And here you have to understand, there was a very famous, I would say, sociologist, Marshall McLuhan. Marshall McLuhan wrote an excellent book called Media is the Message, which means the media that you choose is important for the message that you are going to communicate. Message is important, obviously, but media is as important. Here, the media is what? The media is the television. And what do you see in television? You see soaps, you see dramas, you see artificially conjured living space which is far, far away from reality. Far away from reality. It creates a phantasma. It creates an artificial surrounding, right? Which separates it from the real happiness. The real happiness is the wedding album. The wedding album. The reason for them coming together. And it's now lying idle. Near what? Near a medium which is nothing but creates a phantasma of artificiality. Creates a phantasma of intangible reality. Right? Now, another important thing that you have to this is brilliant. Lying. So lying is nothing but again a double entendre, which is not telling the truth. So now whatever content is there in the album titled Our Wedding is not telling the truth, real truth. Because now both of them have moved away. They are not together. The husband is not beside the wife. He's behind her. Right? Now, let's understand this. And the albums, An Estate Full of Washing. Now, you have to understand, in 1920s and 1930s, there was this, I think 1919 if I'm not wrong, there was this act passed by the British Parliament, which says that we have to eliminate slums in London. And London was one of the largest, it had one of the largest population of slums, right? And it was an act in 1919. I might be wrong with the date, but there was an act which gradually said that we have to remove slums and we have to create estates, right? Estates means that individual houses where people can accommodate themselves. Now because we had from 1920s to 1940s, right? Mid of 1940s, we have this economic and political as well as security turmoil. So the pace with which the houses were to be built was slowed. But after World War II, we have seen that there was a huge sprout of this estateful. So you can see this. If you have seen old movies, you could have seen these kind of buildings. And estate full of clothes. Estate full of clothes means that I'll come to that part later. So estate means that, and estateful is Larkin's own word. Larkin has created his own word, estateful. Now, what does this mean? And behind them at intervals stand husbands in skilled trades. So as I've said, what did the husband do in this time? He had created or he had accumulated skills for which he is being awarded. But what does the woman do? What does the wife do? What does the mother do? After the children have their outing in the recreation ground, they go back, and the mother goes back to what? Estate full of washing. The term estate full is so loaded over here. Estate full. It means that again go home and do the domestic chores. Right? The large amount of domestic work that awaits a mother when he reaches home. Right? It symbolizes the routine responsibility of family life. Routine responsibility. Every day in and day out I have to do this. And hence, everyday work, everyday duty-bound work defines a mother's life. Right? Now, and their children so intent on finding more unripe acorns. Let's read. An estate full of washing and the albums lettered Our Wedding lying near the television. Before them, the wind is, now this is important. Before them, the wind is ruining their courting places. Before them, the wind is ruining their courting places. Again. Before them, the wind is ruining their courting places. Excellent. Excellent. Wind. In English poetry, wind has a very important meaning. Wind is a very important symbol. Right? What does it mean? Wind symbolizes the erosive power of time. Remember Andrew Marvell? What does he say? Time's winged chariot hurrying near. Winged chariot. times winged chariot hurrying here. The steady erosive power of the wind is often used in literature as a metaphor for the effects of time. The destruction wreaked by the wind suggests that once passionate lovers now have a relationship that is dutiful and lackluster. Before then, the wind is ruining their courting places, the places where her husband and she used to court. The wind, the time, remember days. Where do we live but in days? Time is destroying their courting places. The wind is destroying their courting places. Now, then he gradually moves on to the courting places from children's point of view. That are still courting places, but the lovers are all in school. Yes, it is destroying the courting places from the mother's perspective. That yes, my husband who is standing behind me, right? We used to stand together in those courting places, probably, having a romantic moment. But it's getting destroyed, but by whom? By the wind. But it is for the mothers, but it's for the children. For children, it's still the courting places. They're meeting with probably the people. They are going to have the same fate as their mothers. For them, today it's their courting places. And when they become mother, they will also say that, you see, the wind is ruining our courting places. The place remains the same. The character changes. The character here being a woman, a wife, a mother. That are still courting places, but the lovers are all in school. So here, the future lovers all are in schools. Right? Now, this is important. This is very important. Remember, this word before here. Before. Did we see another word which behind them? So let's go to the poem once. This is like this kind of interpretation will fetch marks. The stanza starts with behind them there are unsupportive husbands, because who rarely makes a visit. Stand husbands in skilled trades, an estate full of washing, right? I have to go back to those huge dumps of washing. And the albums, the memory of happiness, lettered our wedding is lying idle, right? Against or where? Near a television which represents a reality which is nothing but figments of one's imagination. Near the television, then this behind, so here is a woman, this is women's reality. Behind, we have husband, right, who is non-responsive, right? Before them, the wind is ruining the courting places. This is women, right? Present women. And before them, what is the women seeing? The courting places where the husband used to be there is it's being ruined. It's being ruined by what? Wind. So, this is brilliant. The women, the mother is trapped between a hopeful past and a regrettable future. A regrettable future and a hopeful past. Right? She's trapped in this quagmire. Right? Right? Then, and the children, now the focus moves. This is the last stanza. The focus moves to the children. And the children, so intent on finding more unripe acorns, expect to be taken home. Their beauty has thickened. Something is pushing them to the side of their own lives. And their children, so intent on finding more unripe acorns, expect to be taken home. Their beauty has thickened. Something is pushing them to the side of their own lives. Now, and their children, whose children? Mother's children. So intent, the word intent means what? Intent means like I'm desperate on finding more unripe acorns. What does this unripe acorn mean? What does this unripe acorn mean? So unripe acorns, these are the green acorns that falls during the autumn, right? And so intent in the sense like desperately absorbed in finding those green acorns. Now, children here treat this activity as very exciting. right? Even though accounts are not very useful, but they find it very exciting. Now, the unripe accounts here represent the next generation, the generation which is going to be like their mothers. Now, they are in their courting ground, they are going to find their lovers, their romantic partners, and the cyclicity of life is such, that artificialness of life is such that they are again engaging in an activity which does not make any sense. A con is not very useful, right? So the activity with which they are engaged in does not make any sense, because after some time they will be like their mother, and then they will say, "Arey, the wind is destroying the courting places," right? Now, this word is very important. Expect. Expect to be taken home. I will be engaging in an activity which does not make sense, but I expect to be taken home by my mother. Hence, the expectation comes from a very defined role that the society has thrust upon the mother. The children does not have the wherewithal, the logic to understand no, why would she be responsible for that? A father can also be responsible for that, right? But the children are so conditioned that he or she expects that, yes, my mother is there to take care of me, to take me home. This again, the word is exact, this expectation, and then the brilliant three line comes. This expectation, their beauty has thickened. Something is pushing them to the side of their own lives. This beauty, like this line, can also be seen as misogynistic. Their beauty has thickened, is very misogynistic, right? But you have to understand, he's writing this line, their beauty has thickened. Against what? Why he is use this line? Why did he use this line? He used this line because this mother, who is responsible, he has thrust upon the responsibility of taking care of their children, is distant from their lovers, now their husbands. All her memories, past memories, are encapsulated into an album which is titled Our Wedding, which is placed beside a television, which is nothing but an artificial medium to create happiness. And the times, or the winged chariot, that is wind, is destroying the courting places. Whatever memory she had with her husband, of her husband, is destroyed by the time itself, by the wind itself. So against these kind of these atrocities that she is facing, what is the natural consequence of it? The natural consequence is that the beauty will be thickened, that the beauty will be affected by such trauma that she is going through. Something is pushing them to the side of their own lives. Now, the word is very indefinite. In this indefinite word, there is definiteness, there is exactness. Something, he does not define what it is. He says there is something or the other. Is this overwhelming responsibility, distancing from the husband, the emptiness in their lives. I don't know what it is, but something is pushing them to the side of their own lives, They are not more as I've said, the poem starts with women being the protagonist, but to the side of their own lives. Now they're not the protagonist. They're not the protagonist anymore. So what they are now is a side character, a character which is ruled by norms, rules, regulations, duty, societal dogma, societal prescription of how one should behave, and that's it. That's it. And hence, the fact that a woman, being a mother, a wife, is burdened with such atrocities of life, she is in her autumn of life. She is in the afternoon of her day. Thank you, guys.